Call this meeting to order.
Roll call for the City Council meeting on Wednesday, April 19th, 2017 at 7:30 p.m. Mr. Kwiatkowski, Mrs. Arrington, Mr. Brennan, Mr. Jones, Mr. Mursky, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon. Please rise for a moment of silent meditation and Pledge of Allegiance.
Mr. President, Witherspoon asks that we remember those in our community that are less fortunate than we are, both locally and globally. Ask that we remember those families who have lost loved ones in our community since the last time we were in these chambers. And also ask our God and Creator to give us the wisdom and the proper information to make the best decisions for the citizens of the city of Erie.
Pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of minutes for the meeting of April 5th, 2017, and bills for payment on April 14th and 21st, 2017. Mrs. Arrington, Mr. Brennan, Mr. Jones, Mr. Mursky, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Kwiatkowski. I think Mrs. Arrington has a presentation that she'd like to give at this time.
Yes. Mrs. Arrington.
Thank you. Is Lori Nicholson here yet? Lori Nicholson? I don't think she's here yet, Rose.
Okay, if she comes in at any point in time, I think we could take a break and make that presentation. I have a presentation as well. Thank you very much. Spoons League has been operating for the past 26 years. This has been the 27th year. And without a doubt, the administration currently and previously, starting with Mayor Savacchio, then Mayor Filippi, and now Mayor Sennett, has supported the League's efforts and what we're doing to try to beautify the courts. We usually have a minimum of 200 plus kids, boys and girls, ages 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Initially, we had the 18 and over, and we backed off on that age group. However, I'd like to present on behalf of the League a plaque to the Mayor's office saying thank you very much for everything you have done for the young people in our community. On behalf of the League, thank you.
Mel, on behalf of the administration and the Mayor Sennett, of course, thank you for all that you've done for the children in our community. Your work is unprecedented, and the number of lives that you touch each summer. I just can't say enough for what you've done for us, so thank you very much. But we'll hang this in a nice permanent spot.
I'll just take a moment while the president is taking the seat. I just want to echo, since we're in that vein and that tone, echo those sentiments of what Mr. Witherspoon has been a model and an example for young men and women in this community for a long time. And you talk about Spoons Court and the kids and the young men and women that it's affected in a positive way. I'm one of them. And we used to have to clean the court, though, but that's another story. But I was one of those kids when you moved to where you are now on Spoon Avenue. Years ago, it was just a raggedy tennis court. We lived on 19th and Holland, blue and white. We use a green and white house now. We live right there on the corner. And when we moved there, there was nothing there. It was raggedy. It was an old tennis court. There were pieces of court net hanging, and weeds were as tall as we were. And about a year later, this tall guy came around looking, and that following summer, there were hundreds of people in a safe place playing basketball off the streets. Next thing you know, lights are coming on. It beautified the entire area. And my family lived there for almost 20 years. And every single one of my siblings, boys and girls, and there's 14 of us, and my nieces and nephews and my sons all played at Spoons League. And so thank you to Mr. Witherspoon for all that he's done just with that, and there's so much more. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. That was good. Now, where are we?
Repository sales.
Oh, repository sales, okay. Is there anyone here for repository sales? Please step up, Mike, give your name and address.
My name is Darnell Ramsey. I live at 737 East 12th Street. I have a bid on a lot to the left of my house, 739 East 12th Street, which I am trying to, I've been taking care of it, mowing the lawn ever since the house was tore down. I've been coming to code enforcement with Mr. Maggio a couple of times. He has the city come and clean up some junk that was, on the lot. I know it's not the best neighborhood, but it is my neighborhood, and I like to keep it clean. So the last straw was a couple weeks ago. I just cleaned everything off of the property, and I even had the dumpster out there for access to the neighbors so they could use it too. They didn't use it. I sent it back. The very next day, there's stuff right back on the block. So I would like to purchase this property to put a fence up. I talked with Mr. Maggio. He's going to provide me with no dumping signs, and I am going to put up security cameras. So is why. Well, I do want to put some concrete up and a basketball hoop for my kids too, but the main reason is for the garbage. So,
Anybody have any questions for the gentleman?
Mr. President?
Yes, Mr. Jones.
No question, just thank you. And that's what community is all about. And it means a lot. So, hopefully that with your spirit of what you're doing can multiply out in other people, and they can kind of follow that example. So, again, thank you.
Any other questions? Sir, we'll be voting on this at a future meeting, okay? So keep in touch with the city clerk. Are there any other repository sales?
My name is Maitham Jabbar. I just buy the lot next to my house. There's a lot of garbage in it, and I try to clean it, leave a backyard and my driveway.
Did you give his name and address, or?
Maitham Jabbar, 951
Okay.
West 17.
951 West 17.
Are there any questions from council? Mr. Mursky?
Mr. President, is the property that you wish to purchase adjacent to your house,
Next to my house.
next to your house? Okay, and then what do you plan to do with it?
Maybe park and yard.
Oh, part of your yard?
There's a lot
Okay.
of garbage in it. I'll just,
And so your property is 951 West 17?
Yes.
And the property that you wish
always, and
to purchase?
I check in the paper, it was the same address.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other questions from council? Stay in touch with the city clerk. We'll be voting on our next meeting.
And thank you for that as well.
Thank you, sir.
Are there any other repository sales? Are there any other requests for repository sales? One more time, are there any other requests for repository sales? We'll now move on to citizens be heard. No one wrote in, correct, Rose?
Correct.
So we'll open up to the general public. Art?
Oh, that's just a sign in. They just signed in the back.
Okay.
Just tell them it's just to sign in. It's not
Mr. President,
Please come up if you, any citizens to be heard.
Mr. President, just for clarity as well, so the citizens know, when you asked about individuals who signed in, he was referring to those who may have called ahead of time, got it with the clerk's office. They would have gotten the opportunity to speak first because they would have been on the agenda. Everyone else signing in the back is just an attendance, so it's not an order thing. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen of council, good evening. My name is Mark Wilmoth. I work for Building Inspection Underwriters, and I do the rental inspections for the city. I'm certified in property maintenance as well as building. I worked with a certified electrician for years before I started doing this job, and I was registered with the city as an electrical assistant. I was disheartened by a recent newscast that talked about our program and my work, and it said that there were claims of the program becoming ineffective. It is my desire tonight to maybe shed some light on how effective it is. I take my work very seriously. I know that it saves lives. Any fire that happens in the city that I see on the news, I pull up my iPad and I look to see if that property is in the rental program. And if it is, then I check to see if someone was there, if it's registered, if how recently we were there. So I'm always looking, and I'm always concerned about what happens to those properties. I know that there's other people in my office that do the same thing. They check on that. I remember a couple of years ago, I watched a newscast, and I saw a lady out front, and they were interviewing her. And she said, "Oh, thank God, no one was hurt." And in the background, I could hear a smoke detector chirping. And I knew that smoke detectors saved the lives of those people in that building. So again, I immediately looked. We had been there fairly recently. And it's just exciting to know that not only the tenant, but the landlord and myself being able to get in there help to maintain those smoke detectors and provide the safety for the people in that building. But Building Inspection Underwriters and the rental inspection program is much more than that. We've asked for floors to be fixed. We've asked for walls to be fixed. We've asked for windows to be fixed. I mean, part of, a good life is to have fresh air in your house. We want to make sure that the windows open and there are screens in the windows. But another big thing is illegal sleeping rooms. I've stumbled across basement illegal sleeping rooms, attic illegal sleeping rooms. And it's often thought that we have no enforcement in where I am at Building Inspection Underwriters. But if I find an illegal sleeping room, I am going back in 30 days to make sure that that illegal sleeping room is gone. And 9 times out of 10, the landlord did not know it was there. So if this program didn't exist, they wouldn't have known about those illegal sleeping rooms, and tragedy could happen. So now we go in, make sure that the illegal sleeping room is removed. We document it on our form, and now the landlord and I can rest at night knowing that we did our job to take care of those. And not only will I do that, but I will try to educate the tenant on why it's not a good idea to be in those illegal sleeping rooms. Another thing is electrical. Over the years, we've installed hundreds, probably thousands of extra outlets. We all know that the old houses, a lot of them just had one outlet in a room. So you can imagine, now it's 2017, we have stereos, we have computers, we have TVs, and then let's plug in an air conditioner, too, to that one outlet. We've got a thin lamp cord running across carpeting with all these electronics plugged into it. Very dangerous. We've had all kinds of outlets installed over these past 8 years. Also, electric panels, the services in the basement, a lot of them deteriorated, old fuse boxes, worn out wiring. We've stepped up and said these need to be fixed. Many have. I've talked to 2 different electricians, and I asked them, how many services have you installed because of this program? And they both said more than 100. And that's 2 out of the 25 or 30 certified electricians in the city. So we know that many, many service panels have been installed because of our program. It's my desire to watch out for the life safety of the residents and the tenants of Erie, Pennsylvania. And I feel that I have done a great job, and my desire is to continue to work with the city and the landlords and the tenants of our city to continue to monitor and to keep safe these places where they live.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I have one question, if it's
Yes.
okay. I didn't see on the agenda that this program was being voted on tonight, and I thought that it was.
It's going to be a waive the rules at the end of the meeting.
During the meeting.
What's,
Pardon?
During the meeting.
Yeah, during the meeting, but before we adjourn, we'll have waived the rules,
okay,
and we will vote on it to extend the contract.
okay, okay,
So if you'd like to stick around,
okay, I will.
okay, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Are there any other citizens to be heard?
Good evening, Council. My name is Joel Miller. Most of you know me as the mobile DJ, but I've been retired from that for about 6 years. I'm here tonight as a landlord in the city and as president of the Apartment Association Northwestern Pennsylvania. We have about 1,500 members, representing about 19,000 rental units. I would say that over half of our members own at least one property within the city of Erie, and probably most of the rental properties in the city are owned by someone that is within our organization. And I've been a landlord since I bought my first place in the city in 1978. I still own that place, and I've added quite a number of places to that in the city since then. And so I believe in the city, and I invest in the city, and I hope that things work out well in the city. And I think that you guys probably, other than whoever happens to be the school district superintendent at any given time, and perhaps the mayor, you've got the most difficult elected positions in the county, and I know that your heart is for the city and you want to do the right thing. But I want to talk to you a little bit about the inspection program too. I had no idea Mark was going to be here tonight. I know him as inspecting many of my units over the years. But I just kind of want to remind you that the inspection ordinance was not primarily an elimination of blight type ordinance when it was enacted. As a safety ordinance, and not a home remodeling ordinance. It was created in response, as you probably remember, to a number of fire-related deaths, smoke detectors not operating, and so on. And its main purpose has been to, as Mark said, check the smoke detectors and virtually any other egregious health and safety issue, violation that needs to be reported and acted upon. And in that respect, it's been a successful ordinance. But it shouldn't be looked on as an ordinance that should have eliminated the blight of the properties in town, not all of which is property owned by landlords, as you know. But the answer, I don't believe, is to, in case you're thinking about it, to increase the scope of the inspections to include more than what it already has. Because we don't really have a blight problem as much as we have an economic problem and a people problem, really. Because landlords will invest to the extent that makes sense in any property based on what they can get for rent, which is based on what people are willing to pay, which is based on how much they have to pay, which is based on how much they make from their jobs. So it eventually circles back to you guys needing to create an atmosphere that encourages the creation of jobs and ways for people to make money so that they can pay more rent, so that we feel like putting more money into our properties. But forcing the landlords to do cosmetic work beyond the real scope of the intention of the ordinance is really just kind of a Band-Aid on the underlying problem, and the Band-Aid will eventually fall off. And investors will walk away from new projects and perhaps even existing projects if they know they can't make money. So, having said that, regarding what I've seen in the news about your consideration of possibly switching from using the BIU inspectors to using in-house, in other words, adding to the Code Enforcement Office employees, we're against that. we believe that that's just going to add employees to the city's payroll that you have to pay benefits to, and you might have trouble getting rid of if, for some reason, the program is not continued or is not as great in scope as it has been, and the need is less for the inspectors. So I would encourage you to think that through and continue to, as long as you have the program, to utilize BIU. And again, I stress, I had no idea Mark was going to be here tonight. But now, on another matter, you may recall that the Apartment Association is actually in an active lawsuit with the City of Erie. You might have forgotten about it and thought that it went away because we haven't been in the news about it lately, but it's very much alive and is soon to come to a head. We have recently gotten back the report from the forensic accountant that we hired, who has done a lot of work over the past couple years, taking depositions from city employees and also doing the investigative work. And I just wanted to let you know that that is soon to see its day in court. And our main issue that we will bring to you is that we have been able to prove that, just using round numbers, our fee to you in a 2-year period is $80, and we will prove that your cost is $60, around thereabouts. Now, you know from the Pennsylvania Tax Enabling Act.
Sir,
yes,
you're over your time limit, sorry.
Okay. All right. Well, I just wanted to get to that point that that's coming, and that will have to be dealt with, and I hope you take our comments in consideration.
Are there any other citizens to be heard?
Good evening, board members. My name is Beverly Potts. I live at 605 Elk Court, Erie, Pennsylvania. I live on the east side of Erie, and I love east side of Erie. And I have a couple of things that I want to address to you, actually 3 things. The first thing is I kind of had thought Erie was all in favor of bringing things into Erie. You know, we have the Erie Otters that are here, and we won last night in overtime 5-4. Let me tell you a little bit about the morning of the day before, when people went to get their tickets, when they said the tickets were on sale. Well, there's about 8 spaces right by the Civic Center there that says you can go in, and you have a 15-minute time limit of which to buy your ticket. Sometimes 15 minutes isn't quite long enough because the lines are long. They were the other day. But what happened is several of us couldn't get in there. So we parked down the street, on the street, only to come out and find $25 tickets on our cars. So I'm asking you people to think about that, and I'm only asking you from that perspective of that place where it says no parking anytime. Put up signs like they have in the handicap area that allows that person to go in and purchase a ticket, because when you have a team like the Otters and they're winning, they're going to be in a line of people. And so several of us people got $25 tickets because we were buying tickets. I paid $58 for 3 tickets, and I'm sure there were people that were buying a whole lot more and came out with a $25 ticket on my car. That was number 1. My second complaint is the garbage pickup in the city. Something has got to be done. Maybe, I don't know, we need to revamp maybe the paper that comes out to us at the beginning of the year telling us how we need to put our things in bags, what kind of bags, what color bags. I called my buddy Steve Yurkovic yesterday and said, Steve, do me a favor and drive by 615 Payne Avenue and look at their garbage. OMG, I'm telling you, there were no bags. Things were just piled, papers and stuff. And, you know, by that night, if there was a wind, they're going to be down the street. And I have a problem even with the garbage pickup when the guys pick up the garbage. In the wintertime, they would be bringing a pickup truck because they would go street by street and pick up the garbage from the street, and then they'd bring it and put it in the big truck in the huge truck. And half of the stuff, they would shovel it into the big truck. Well, guess where some of it goes? On the street. And I told my friend Chuck Zisk, I said, you know what, Chuck, guess who picks up the street? Me. I've been doing a little maintenance around Payne Avenue and Elm Court and Birch Court and Hess Avenue, picking up trash. I want this city, if you want people to come into the city and like what they see, they need to like what they see. They don't need to see trash everywhere, on sidewalks, on people's lawns. There's got to be some kind of a program that we can start, and I'm actually going to start with Father Jerry at St. Anne's and talk to him about, because I know that they do cover certain areas, and I'm going to talk to him about cleaning up just our section, maybe from East Lake Road, maybe up to 12th Street, and having a certain number of people or kids or whatever having bags and just picking up trash. But you know what? It doesn't last. It's just doesn't last. But put that in your, up here in your little thought, and let me know what you think. I called you, Kaz, about the ticket, but you never called me back.
I lost your number. I was out of town.
I figured you were, yeah.
My phone has been acting up. Give me a call today or tomorrow.
That was about the ticket. Because I was so irritated. Several of us went to the police station with our tickets, and all you get is, well, you have to abide by the sign because of snow removal and because of this and because of it. I'm thinking, there's no snow, and the street cleaner, this was at 11 o'clock in the morning, folks. The ticket person comes around my street at 8 o'clock in the morning to ticket cars. Not at 11. They're just waiting for people to make a mistake and park there so they can scoop up on tickets.
Well, a lot of the procedures concern me, so if you can call me either today or tomorrow, leave your number with me again, and I'll contact you. I tried to, when I came home, I know I lost about 4 numbers, and so I'm trying to get them.
Just one more thing, and it's real quick. People think they're campers, and they have little tiny backyards, and they think they should have fire pits. I don't know, years ago there used to be an ordinance you could burn in your backyard if you had a metal container, and only on a Saturday. Saturday was the only day that we could burn things. Well, now people think they're camping, and and your yards are just teeny yards on the east side of Erie. So, I'm just saying, firemen or the fire stations need to alert people somehow with cards in the mail, or maybe put it on that sheet that we get telling us about our garbage, that don't think you're a camper.
So please call me today or tomorrow.
Okay, I will.
I'll get back to you. We'll look into that issue. That bothers me too. Are there any other citizens to be heard? Are there any other citizens to be heard? Okay. Sonia, can you hold on 1 second?
Yes, sir, I can.
Okay.
You're Lori?
Yes, I am Lori.
Okay, Sonia's going to take over this portion of the meeting.
I would like my friend from Texas to join me, Jody Mueller. Thank you, board members.
This was a popular one tonight.
That's okay. You ladies can come up. Hi, nice to meet you. You too. Hello. Nice to meet you. Thank you. On behalf of City Council, we would like to present you this proclamation for parental alienation. And every year on April 25th is Awareness Day. And thank you very much for raising awareness to this issue. That's only one of many issues, but somebody needs to raise awareness, and we thank you ladies very much for doing that. And for the sake of time, I'm just going to read just one paragraph. Whereas parental alienation is the process and the result of psychological manipulation of a child into showing unwanted fear, disrespect, hostility towards a targeted parent or family member. So thank you very much, ladies, and also the mayor's office would like to present you with one, too, as well.
It's real, thank you. It's real, thank you so much, Sonia. We'd like to present you a shirt. And there's some literature in our card. Thank you very
So Mayor, Senate wanted you to have a proclamation for Parental Alienation Awareness Day as well. And I'll just read the last paragraph that says, "Now therefore I, Joseph E. Sinnott, Mayor of the City of Erie, do hereby proclaim April 25th, 2017, Parental Alienation Awareness Day in the City of Erie, Pennsylvania. We encourage citizens to support the programs, activities, and ceremonies planned in this effort." We certainly thank both of you for all of your efforts.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is for the kids.
Okay, moving on with the meeting. You were late, Mr. Barnes. We asked 3 times. I'll let you have this one. Got to be more aware.
Okay. I'll see what I can do about that.
Welcome back.
Thanks,
Put
President.
the cell phone down in the building.
Thanks, President and council members. Good evening. Randy Barnes, 109 Walton Point, Erie, Pennsylvania. And I'm here tonight to also speak in support of education. And with that said, I'd like to respectfully ask council that they amend their resolution and also support the rural community college, the RCC. As you may know, this college was legislated in 2014. Initially, Erie was not included, but at the request of local leaders and then Senator Sean Wiley, Erie was included in the rural community college. I think that council can send a message to Harrisburg and Governor Wolf that they support the rural community college that begins offering courses this summer. You may have seen recent articles about the RCC. And if you really don't support this college, what message does that send the governor and the local leaders that requested Erie be included? Our tax dollars are already supporting the RCC, the rural community college. And shouldn't you as elected officials also support it? If you don't support it, then what's that tell us? That you want it to fail? That's not the message you want to send, Governor Wolf, because as you know, the governor will have to approve funding for any new community college in Erie. Local leaders and elected officials ask for tax dollars to be spent on the rural community college. And if you don't support what's already here, in the rural community college, then how can the governor know you're really serious about further education opportunities for people in Erie County? As you may know, this rural community college is going to have sites throughout the county, Girard, Harbor Creek, Corey, Central Tech, other places in the county for these students to enroll. You may have seen recently that even this summer, you can take courses for just $130 a credit, I believe it is, or if you're a high school student through this rural community college, you can take courses for $55 a credit this summer. A little bit about, and I know the resolution has already been written, but maybe you could possibly postpone it and put in there that you support not only the effort of the community college, but the rural community college that already exists. A little bit about what you're voting on tonight, the community college. An expert spoke at the Jefferson Society a couple months ago and told us that student tuition in a community college is paid in 3 parts. One part being the county spends tax dollars to support the community college. One part is the state supports it with tax dollars, 1/3, 1/3. And 1/3 is the student pays 1/3. So if we take away the tax dollars, this student thinks they're getting a really good deal, but they're only paying 1/3 of the cost. Now, if all of us could go down 6 blocks south to the steakhouse and get a $75 steak for $25, that would be great. We'd just feel good, wouldn't it? If someone else wanted to pay the other two-thirds? Well, in a community college, you and I give the county tax money. You and I give the state tax money. So you and I are basically paying two-thirds of the cost of this community college so the student can go and have some unrealistic expectation that they can go for a whole year for $4,500, when it's really $45 from the state, $45 from the county, and $45 from the student, about $13,500. So when people want to tell you that this community college is so great because it's so inexpensive, it's only inexpensive to the student. It's not inexpensive to the taxpayer. It costs the same amount of money. These teachers aren't going to work for anything less. The administrators, the dean, or the president, or whatever, he's not going to work for anything less. It doesn't make it anything any more affordable. It just means that we're going to spread the cost over a bigger swath of people, over all the people that don't need to or want to go to community college. President Trump spoke just yesterday about blue-collar jobs and technical training. We have plenty of college graduates in this area, Gannon, Mercyhurst, Barron, Edinburgh. We got an overabundance of college graduates. We don't need more college graduates, we need more jobs. But we need some blue-collar jobs, and we have those. We need people that want to take blue-collar jobs and want to train to do the manual work that's still going to be needed in this country. Again, we got plenty of college graduates. We hear all the time about brain drain. Brain drain means we have too many college graduates and not enough slots for them. So encourage you again, support the RCC, expand your resolution to support what we already have. Hey, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Barnes. Are there any other citizens to be heard? Are there any other citizens to be heard? One more time. Are there any other citizens to be heard? Hearing none, we're going to move on with the next portion of the meeting.
Ordinances for final passage. Council file number 15984, official ordinance number 9, 2017. An ordinance appropriating the sum of $15,000 from appropriated and anticipated revenue from PA Emergency Management Agency for firefighter training and rescue equipment. By Mr. Witherspoon, second by Mr. Jones, the council file ordinance bill number 15984, and now known as official file ordinance number 9, 2017, be finally passed by the City Council. Mrs. Arrington, Mr. Brennan, Mr. Jones, Mr. Mursky, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Kwiatkowski. City Council passed official file ordinance number 9, 2017, finally by yeas 7, nays 0. Ordinances for first reading. Council file 15985, official ordinance number, no, we're not that far yet. Council file number 15985, an ordinance renewing an Erie Downtown Improvement District for the area shown on Exhibit A at the request of the Erie Downtown Partnership and Improvement District Association and a coalition of property owners, business leaders, retailers, and local government and institutional representatives as provided by the Neighborhood Improvement District Act of 2000. By Mr. Brennan and second by Mr. Winarski, the council file ordinance number 5985, having been read, is hereby adopted on first reading by the City Council. Mrs. Arrington, Mr. Brennan, Mr. Jones, Mr. Mursky, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Kwiatkowski.
Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Winarski.
We have Mr. Buchna here from the Erie Downtown Partnership. I think if you wouldn't mind just giving us a few words so the citizens of Erie get a quick insight on what we voted on tonight.
Yes. Good evening. Thank you, members of Erie City Council, for the opportunity. We are asking for a renewal of our organization that exists for about another year. We've just invested close to $100,000 to develop a downtown master plan that has about a 10-year plus shelf life to it, and how that plan connects to the Erie Refocus plan and ultimately ties into the region's Emerge 2040 plan. It's our opportunity that we have to be participants with other leaders and other organizations to make a difference in our community. We wanted to approach council and say, we as an organization need to exist more than a year to enable to implement this plan that we've invested, but we are actually in the process of implementing at this point. So this being the situation we're in, we've approached council and said, here's what we need to do, and that's renew the organization as exhibited in Exhibit A of the ordinance, whereas our boundaries remain intact, etc.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Any other questions from any member of the council?
Thank you, Mr. President. Time frame for the complete downtown partnership refocus program, or
the downtown master plan, Mr.
Yes,
Winarski?
sir.
As stated, it's a 10-year plan at this point. Certain aspects of this plan will take more than 10 years. Certain aspects will take less than 10 years. But the plan itself outlines 6 primary goals that listed 137 recommendations, and those recommendations definitely can positively impact the current business and property owners, and especially the future property owners. So you're looking at a situation where we've already underway with some of the implementation that is listed from recommendations, but ultimately working with the city to do more longer term so that you have more growth opportunities, as stated earlier, from an economic development standpoint. So we're asking from the organization to be renewed through 2029.
Okay.
Did I answer your question, Mr. Winarski?
Yes, thank you very much.
Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Mursky.
Mr. Buchner, just a few questions. Per our conversation in the caucus room a few weeks ago, we had a concern from some of our businesses south of 14th Street.
Correct.
That wanted to take advantage of some of the programs and opportunities that the Downtown Improvement District offers. Is there any way for them to plug into that, or do we have to change the boundaries?
There are ways, as mentioned in their study session, there are ways that they can plug in and receive, or potentially receive, the benefits of what a business improvement district can do to the organization, or I should say for their organization. As committed, we are in that process of expanding in terms of opportunities for them. The boundaries we want to remain intact, but it's the opportunities how, because they're so close and others, it's in our best interest, just like our neighborhoods. Strong neighborhoods make for a strong downtown.
Yes.
They're very close to us, so it's a really good asset. We want to make sure that this is secure. And here's a case where we've already reached out to a few vendors, for instance, our external security camera vendor, who's offered to donate some equipment that, again, can help this organization that you're referencing.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council? Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
City Council ready to adopt council file ordinance number 15985 by yeas 7, nays 0 on first reading. Council File 15986, an ordinance appropriating the sum of $15,000 from unappropriated and unanticipated revenue for the expenditure thereof. Contribution is from the Sisters of Mercy for the purchase of police equipment, fire prevention supplies, or equipment, and winter maintenance equipment. By Mrs. Arrington, seconded by Mr. Jones, the council file ordinance number 15986, having been read, is hereby adopted on first reading by the City Council. Mrs. Arrington, Mr. Brennan, Mr. Jones, Mr. Mursky, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Potowski. City Council read and adopt council file ordinance number 15986 by yeas 7, nays 0 on first reading. Council File 15987, an ordinance requiring all persons, partnerships, businesses, and corporations to obtain a permit for any construction or development, providing for the issuance of such permits, setting forth certain minimum requirements for new construction and development within areas of the City of Erie which are subject to flooding, and establishing penalties for any persons who fail or refuse to comply with the requirements or provisions of this ordinance. By Mr. Witherspoon and seconded by Mr. Brennan, the council file ordinance number 15987, having been read, is hereby adopted on first reading by the City Council. Mrs. Arrington, Mr. Brennan, Mr. Jones, Mr. Mursky, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Kwiatkowski. City Council read and adopt council file ordinance number 15987 by yeas 7, nays 0 on first reading. We have one item under old business.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Jones.
I'd like to move the balance of the agenda.
Okay, is there a second on that?
Second.
Second by Mr. Mursky. Any separations?
I think we should separate.
Number one.
Yeah, we're going to separate number 1, roads under old business.
Okay, number 1, anything else?
Anything else, anybody?
Should they know number 2 was pulled under new business?
Just note that we pulled number 2, correct, Rose?
Yes, the resolution to empower Erie Community College effort. That was pulled by the sponsor. Just the one separation then?
Yep, we're still on that. Anybody have any separations anymore?
Okay, then moving the balance of the agenda. Mrs. Arrington, Mr. Brennan, Mr. Jones, Mr. Mursky, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Kwiatkowski. By Mr. Witherspoon, second by Mr. Winarski, resolved by the Council of the City of Erie, pursuant to the provisions of zoning ordinance number 80, 2005, and a public hearing held on April 5th, 2017, the request for rezoning received from Testa Enterprises of the subject property is defined on Exhibit A attached, located on the block bordered by West 2nd Street North, West 3rd Street South, Poplar Street West, and Cherry Street East, is hereby approved, and authorizing directing the city solicitor to prepare an ordinance rezoning the property commonly known as 648 West 3rd, 646 West 3rd, 642 West 3rd, 640 West 3rd, 636 West 3rd, West 3rd Street, 632 West 3rd Street, another West 3rd Street, West 3rd Street, West 3rd Street. I'm not going to read all the parcel numbers. 641 West 3rd Street, from R2 medium density residential to WR waterfront residential to accommodate the proposed development of a mixed apartment community. Any discussion? All right, roll call.
Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Winarski.
She is moving.
Okay. Get somewhere good tonight, Rosie?
Yeah, you got a hot date. You're pretty quick to move.
We had our public hearing at our past meeting, and a few questions arise from council that before we want to go through with this vote, we figure we need a little more information. And Dr. Ryan from Testa Enterprises and myself and Mel, we did have a conference call this past Friday answering some of the concerns from our council as well as the citizens, and the main one was being a tax-exempt property or a tax revenue-generated property. And after a very good conversation on Friday, and after the legal team gets together here, this being the first reading, they will be written up where this development can and will go through as long as the agreement is there that it will be on the tax rolls. We definitely want to see growth and expansion in our city, and it sounds like a great development that will fit well in that downtown Lower West Side area. But the biggest thing that was on all of council's concern is that they're going to pay taxes. And with getting that agreement, which we will get in writing and get it legalized, we plan on moving forward. But we just wanted it to be clear to the citizens of Erie that that's where we're at after this first reading.
Yes, Mr. Carley.
I understood testing position in caucus, they were going to come up here and present what they thought they were going to offer us. And that, of course, Rose will memorialize in the minutes for the next meeting. So why don't you come up here and tell us what your proposal is?
That'd be great. Members of council, again, my name is Ryan Landy. What we, to address the issues that were raised in the public meeting, what we are offering is to make the rezoning conditioned upon Testa Enterprises or its for-profit subsidiary purchase of the property for specific purchases of developing, owning, and operating a mixed-income apartment community. I think that will address your...
I think you said it was a 501c3 are the entities that you were seeking the partner with. Is that correct?
Yes,
That's correct,
again,
right?
we are seeking to partner, but that the property will be owned by a for-profit entity and not by a nonprofit entity.
That's correct. But the nonprofit, in the event, and you haven't now partnered with any nonprofit, but the nonprofit you're contemplating is a 501c3, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's what will be reflected in the minutes.
Okay.
Good deal.
Are there any other questions?
Yes. I believe the project is a good project, as we discussed and what I've seen. And I've mentioned to my colleagues, as well as yourself, that there are 2 or 3 families that are adamant against it. However, only one voiced their opinion at the public hearing that was held at Martin Luther King Center. And I just need to know, or I just need to state publicly, that you cannot wait to the bewitching hour to voice your opinion when the contract has been stamped. This is what we're doing now. We're moving forward. If that entire community had voiced their opinion and they didn't want it, it would carry much, much, much more weight, much more power, and that would make us think in a different manner. But it didn't happen that way. Just probably 2 or 3 families had voiced their opinion. But I just wanted you to know that there's some unrest in the community, but not enough at this time. Thank you.
Any other members of council? Yes, David.
Yeah, I just want to note that just recognize, I know they did work with some of the community. There was input, and I know the design of the development did change over time to kind of fit in contextually with the neighborhood and fit in with the scale. So I do just want to recognize that. And I know, of course, there's no development that's perfect, and everyone's going to, jump for joy about every project because it may affect them differently. But I do appreciate and want to just recognize I did work with the neighborhood groups and got that input, and I think they altered the design to fit in the neighborhood. So thank you.
Yeah, I want to thank you for getting back to us so quick after our last meeting. I think we all feel it's the kind of project we like because given the new additions and the assurances, it's what we want to see. More people coming into the city, a nice project that lends well to the waterfront, and a chance to renew our tax base a little bit. It's a win-win for everybody. Any other members of council?
Mr. President, please don't take my comments as out of line or not in support of concept. But I do think it is important to realize that, to Mr. Brennan's point, that some of the changes that were made weren't just in relation to public opinion, but there was some refusal or not passing by, certain things weren't allowed to be done that way. So I think, it is community interaction and that partnership, and I respect that. But again, some things just aren't allowed to happen, and so that's why they didn't happen. Again, a lot of what my concern has been rectified in relation to tax exemption, but that does not mean that this development, upon completion, will begin to pay taxes right away. It is in the LRTA tax abatement zone in our city, which is an incentive for developments like this to happen. I think another thing too is that as long as this organization or some for-profit subsidiary, to use your language, will own it, it will be on the tax rolls. But you can't control what a business does with their property either. And so if there was some point they wanted to sell it and they sold it to a nonprofit, there's nothing that we can do, and there's nothing that what we're doing tonight or in the next couple readings can do to change that. So I just think it's important, just because we can only do what we can do with what we are doing right now, as far as working with this particular developer in this project. But it does not and may not lend to staying that way forever, so to speak. I guess no building lasts forever anyway, but I think that's just important as well, because there have been several citizens have called me, stopped me in random places, and they're asking these questions, and I'm telling them, to Mr. Witherspoon's point, there was opportunity outside of these chambers as well as in these chambers to come and voice those opinions, and many of them did not, but they will stop me at random shopping places to do it. So again, I'm not anti or against this project. I do feel more comfortable knowing that things will be in place and contingencies are in place to make sure that no matter who the partnerships are with, that this will be at the appropriate time a tax generating property, because again, this is waterfront. It's in a neighborhood, it's on the bluff and all of that, but this is waterfront property, and we don't have much of it. And so again, I think this was part of what our due diligence was to do this. So thank you for responding and being so gracious and listening to me rant about things. And we appreciate the research that you did as well, the variance between Ohio and Pennsylvania and all of those things. So we appreciate that.
Thank you. Just one last comment, if I may. We are looking forward to being good neighbors in the city of Erie. Nothing would make us happier than to be a part of the community here.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, Mr. Carley, it'd be okay to proceed forward and you'll incorporate those changes in the ordinance, correct? Okay.
All right, roll call. Mrs. Arrington, Mr. Brennan, Mr. Jones, Mr. Mursky, Mr. Minarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Kwiatkowski. This resolution will adopt 7-0. And then we have 3 waive rules, Mr. President. Number 1 will be the rezoning requested by Erie Insurance. So voting to waive the rules. Mrs. Arrington, Mr. Brennan, Mr. Jones, Mr. Mursky, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Kwiatkowski. By Mr. Brennan and second by Mr. Winarski, resolved by the Council of the City of Erie that upon the initiative of City Council and at the request of Erie Insurance Exchange, acting by and through its attorney in fact, Erie Indemnity Company, 144 East 6th Street, Erie, PA, the city solicitor is hereby authorized and directed to prepare an ordinance rezoning the current W2 medium-density residential to that of RLB residential limited business. The property East 4th to East 5th Street, middle of the 200 block to East to Parade Street, East 5th to East 6th Street, from the middle of the 200 block east to German Street, where it will abut existing RLB and commercial zones, and south side of East 6th Street from German Street east to the commercial zone of Parade Street. This would only include the properties facing East 6th Street. This request is to enable Erie Insurance Group to plan for future expansions to its home office headquarters in areas of residential housing and sporting amenity business, and after preparation, forward to City Planning Commission for recommendation and report thereon to City Council. Any discussion?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Brennan.
Yeah, I was just going to note, I received a letter requesting this, and the reasoning behind this request was to enable Erie Insurance Group to plan for future expansions of its headquarters in areas for residential housing and supporting amenity businesses. The rezoning would be a continuation of the present RLB zoning in place of the current R2 residential zoning. And their planning, according to the letter, is intent to develop these areas to further support the comprehensive plan. And just the last note is that all the areas are to be rezoned or natural extensions of the current zone. So they provided a map, and really this is a request to have the Planning Commission review and then get back to City Council on a recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Brennan. Any other comments? Yes, Mr. Jones.
Yeah, Mr. President, this is, again, I don't know, I'm maybe soapboxy today, but it's really interesting that we had some folks in here earlier talking about residential properties and repository sales and how certain portions of the city are have people who just kind of dump and throw, and we're like, oh, that's right, thank you for cleaning that up, and that's appropriate. The same area is what we're talking about right now. And so some people are dumping trash and garbage, and we have a Fortune 500 company who's trying to buy up everything in that area. Now, I'm not against that. I mean, it's part of their master plan and their campus and all of that, but I'm just throwing this out to many people in our community, like, don't undervalue what you have. It will be what you make it. Because we're talking 6th and Parade. Across the street, someone was murdered there less than a year ago, several months ago. But they're still buying, and they're still wanting rezoning. I think we need to, as a community, wherever we live, if we value it and we put into it what we desire for it to be, then it's going to be better. And Erie Insurance is a great model of that. Of course, we can't do that on a grand scale like they are, but you can take care of your property. You know what I mean? And they're buying up places where people were running out of. They're buying it up like wildfire. And so what that gentleman did with the repository sale and is doing, if each person does that, the companies and businesses like Erie Insurance do what they do on a global or grand scale, then it automatically enhances our community, aesthetically, pride-wise, and economically. And so I get maybe a little soapboxy, but it was interesting. People are running, and the Lower East Side is so terrible. But the Fortune 500 company is buying out every piece of grass they can buy in that same area where people are downplaying and minimizing its effectiveness and its value. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Any other comments? Rose, the roll call.
Mrs. Arrington, Mr. Brennan, Mr. Jones, Mr. Mursky, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Kwiatkowski. So be another waive rules. This will be regarding the BIU contract extension. Voting to waive the rules. Mrs. Arrington, Mr. Brennan, Mr. Jones, Mr. Mursky, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Kwiatkowski. By Mr. Brennan, seconded by Mr. Winarski, that the proper city officials are hereby authorized and directed to issue an agreement to Building Inspection Underwriters of Pennsylvania, 1805 West 38th Street, Erie, PA, for a one-year contract for inspection services for the City of Erie's rental licensing program for the Bureau of Code Enforcement. Initial inspections fee will be $50 an inspection. Subsequent inspections beyond initial inspection, $45 an inspection. Hourly rate for filing citations, testifying court, and administrative review is $65 an hour. Discussion.
Mr. President?
Yes, Mr. Jones.
I think I might be the only council member on this current council who was a part of that council in 2006 and 7 that I'm the oldest and the youngest at the same time. That's interesting. But citizens have spoken correctly on the intent of this ordinance was health and safety, and lives have been lost in fires, and a lack of proper egress, being able to get out of the building, and smoke detectors and all those things. And I was one of the biggest proponents of this program, and I continue to be and have always been. I think some of I don't know if it was media coverage or just presentation or what, but and then Mark being here, who's got a great left-handed jump shot, by the way, being here, no one is questioning the validity of this program. At least I know I'm not, and I don't believe this council is as a group. We're not questioning the effectiveness of the program to have met the needs or met the goal of why it was established. We're not questioning the necessity of continuing this program, because every day there are new landlords who are buying property, and properties that were once owner occupied are now being, owned by landlords and tenant occupied, et cetera. All of that. What I think the intent of this body's inquiries and questions was about infrastructure and accountability, which has nothing to do, respectfully, with you as an inspector, and I know you, I've known you for a long time, and I know you, everything you said was honest and true, and others that you work with. The questions that we have are a step beyond that, and the questions we have is how it's supposed to be a revenue-neutral program. We see it in writing that it is on one level, but there's also other little pieces that we can't access. We're not saying even that anyone's doing anything wrong. We're just saying that there are checks and balances that are difficult for us to access as a council, and I won't speak for the controller, but I will echo what she said publicly, and for the controller to be able to access certain things about this program. We're not even, I am not even against the current provider of the inspections. My thing is, let's just figure out the best way to move forward with this program. Is that to do it in-house? If it's not, then let's continue working with the group that we're doing and fine-tune that relationship. All those things. I think the issue is that everything's on the table, and when everything's on the table, sometimes we can kind of lose track of what the intention was or is about, looking at how things are working and operating. I'm a little disappointed on some of the respectfully tone of some of the administration staff or some of the maybe administrative staff in the building. I mean, just hearing side comments, and even some of the everyday labor staff working in the offices. There's been too much contention about this, because you ask questions. It should be okay to ask questions. It should be okay to ask why or how and can this program or can this thing run better, without everyone being sensitive and angry. And it's even tonight, there's some tones in the back room, and it's just like, this is not that serious that we can't get along and figure this out, because the intent and the heart of it should be the same for all of us. With that said, it's kind of ironic as well that we had a representative from the Landlord Association who 10 years ago, not that individual, but that organization was one of the major opponents of this program. So I think it speaks to the importance of what the program has done, which then further speaks to the importance of what we're trying to do to make sure it's operating at its highest level and most effective way. And so again, I'm in favor of extending this for a year, with all of the conversations and all of the questions that we've asked, and ways of kind of fine-tuning it, ways of increasing transparency for the program. And again, increased transparency doesn't mean we think somebody's doing something wrong. We just have answers and questions we have to answer as a body, as elected officials, and as folks who are voting on these types of resolutions and ordinances. So again, not to overtalk it, but I think it's really important that we move forward the best way. I don't know if in-house or continue to outsource it is what's the best way, but these questions that we're asking are going to clear that up for us, I think. And the last thing, we did have a conversation with Finance Director in the caucus, and the question was asked, can this program be isolated? We asked about an enterprise fund, and we're accurately reminded that that is really related to for-profit departments, or for example, golf or something like that, that is designed to generate revenue. This is designed to be revenue neutral, so maybe the enterprise fund isn't the right way to do it. But maybe, I think someone mentioned, a separate department. And then there was a question, if we pull it from a separate department, that means it's going to be difficult because it's mixed with code enforcement. But if this program is separate and there's no other bills and people's salaries coming out of it, then it should be just simply a pickup and transport of the information. And we were then, throughout further conversation, told that absolutely it can happen. I don't want to leave it at absolutely it can happen, because, so I guess my question as we move forward is, is that the will of this council to have it separated in its own department, as a program that we can watch without all the enmeshed interactions with code enforcement stuff happening? If that's our will, what do we need to do to make that happen? And is there anything we can do to push that process to go faster? We were told it can happen. We were not given a commitment that it would happen, nor were we given a commitment that there's a time frame in which we're going to look at it possibly being able to happen. So I don't want to leave tonight with leaving it in the air. And, so I don't know, again, I don't know what that process looks like, but I don't want us to just say, okay, yeah, he said it could happen, but we aren't doing anything about it. If that's the will of this council, we need to make sure that it happens, or at least do what we can do to make sure that it happens. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any other comments?
Sure, Mr. President. Just to follow up with Mr. Jones, this was presented to council as a 2-year extension to the 10-year contract, and what came with that was study sessions with both the in-house that wanted to possibly take these inspection overs, as well as with BIU to continue to do it for that 2 years. After a lot of debate, after a lot of discussion, as a council, instead of keep extending it for 30 days to decide what we want to do, we figured we'd go the 1 year, give BIU that opportunity to just be more transparent. Once again, not that anything is being done wrong, just for the fact that for the last, and I'll be honest with you, my 7 years on council, yeah, we may have gotten an update, but it wasn't in the capacity to say we're overflowed with money and maybe this year we shouldn't charge, or, there's not enough questions put upon by us as a council, but in the same breath, now the contract is up, the system did work and it has been working, and does save lives. So at the end of the day, if it's saving lives, it is a good program. We just got to, another question that came up is, well, this is BIU's responsibility to look for the code enforcement's inside, and then it's the code enforcement from the City of Erie to look at possibly some issues on the exterior of the building. As a council, this is things we need to know whose responsibility it is, so we know who to call when we get the calls. And maybe by this happening the way it has, and we're doing this year extension, maybe BIU can work a little closer with code enforcement, we'll work a little closer with city council, our controller, to just make everybody aware how the program is working, how well it's working, and everybody's on the same page. That's all. Thank you.
Any other member of council?
Mr. President, a call for the question.
Okay.
Roll call. Mrs. Arrington, Mr. Brennan, Mr. Jones, Mr. Mirsky, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Kwiatkowski. This resolution will adopt 7-0. And then we have one more waiver rules. This will be for the executive pulse for the software that goes hand in hand with the BIU contract. So voting on the waiver rules, Mrs. Arrington, Mr. Brennan, Mr. Jones, Mr. Mirsky, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Kwiatkowski. By Mr. Kwiatkowski, seconded by Mr. Winarski, resolved by the Council of the City of Erie that the proper city officials are hereby authorized and directed to issue an agreement to Executive Pulse, 11 East 4th Street, Erie, for a 1-year contract to provide web hosting, system maintenance, normal and customary system upgrades for the rental licensing software package for the Bureau of Code Enforcement at a total cost of $20,000. Any discussion? No discussion?
You know, excuse me, Mr. President, too, Mr. Winarski brought a good point, is that as we move forward in this year, we should really look at the Executive Pulse software that is running and used for the rental program should not be an extra outside expense. That should be a part of the revenue neutral nature, I think, of this program. So if it's anything that runs it, anything it takes to run it, staff, personnel, time, money should be coming from that from that program. So we shouldn't have a separate line item that's paying for anything connected to this program, like, for example, Executive Pulse. That money should come out of the program itself's budget, as opposed to, I think, the way it's coming out right now, or at least the way it seems to be coming out. Just a point for the next year's conversation.
My hope is that we'll have recommendations from the controller and others, that we'll appoint a committee from council that can make those recommendations and see that it's done. Any other comments?
Mr. President, I just wanted to let the public know that, in the course of our study sessions and talking with the city controller, the problem with Executive Pulse is that it doesn't have the capacity to do the monitoring that the controller needs to do with ease. And so when we're looking at this software, we have to realize that it does have limitations, and I think that's part of the problem, is that BIU's the company, BIU owns the software, and so along the way we're getting the auditing that we would like to see as a council, we're unable to do because of the software limitations. And so moving forward, I would just, I'd like to see BIU upgrade to something that's easier for our controller to access and monitor.
Okay, roll call. Mrs. Arrington, Mr. Brennan, Mr. Jones, Mr. Mursky, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Kwiatkowski. This resolution will adopt 7-0. And that'll take us to committee reports, Mr.
Okay. Today we'll start with Mr. Jones.
No report, Mr. President. No report. I've been reporting all night.
Wow. We'll go to Mr. Brennan.
Thank you, Mr. Kwiatkowski. Mr. President. Two items. I attended the Erie Downtown Partnership Board meeting today. A couple items to report things they're doing. There's a facade grant program that they have. Okay. There's a Facade 101 workshop on April 26. It's from 8 to 10. It's a free program. It's going to be held at Radius Co-work at 1001 State Street. It'll be a way that you could learn more about the facade program, the requirements, and also some best practices of how to renovate and how to better your business. Also, round 2 of security camera program is coming soon. You'll hear about that soon. They'll have some type of announcement to let everybody know about it. Also, I attended a Little Italy meeting last week for Revitalization Committee. Updates were given on the burn grant. Code enforcement updates were given. They also have a facade grant program, which they'll be starting up again. In the past, I served on the grant review committee for different improvements. People would apply for an improvement, and they'd get a match of dollars to help them through this grant. So it's definitely shown to improve a lot of buildings in the area, especially the main streets. And they'll be starting their farmers markets soon, so look out for notices on that. Other than that, that's my report. Thank you.
We'll go to Mr. Winarski.
Very, very brief. I think we have about one more week of large item pickup. Once again, citizens, please take advantage of it, and for what is left over, the little scraps or whatever, like that one lady said that was here earlier, at least pick up your area or help your neighbor pick up a little bit, and these neighborhoods can be a lot cleaner than expecting somebody else to do it for you. But Other than that, I just want to congratulate our Erie Otters. My voice is a little hoarse this evening because I was there last night and one heck of a game. I kept my cowbell. It didn't get flown out on the ice, but sometimes it happens at these hockey arenas, and unfortunately those cowbells aren't going to be allowed to be used there in upcoming games, but we have moved on to the Western Conference Finals, so once again, come out and support your Otters. Thank you.
Mrs. Arrington?
Yes, I just want to say my heart goes out to the family of the gentleman that was shot and killed on Facebook by Mr. Stevenson. And I also would like to thank the Erie Police, the State Police, the Westerville Police for their diligent work in catching this young man, and also the employees at McDonald's. And you know, that was 2 blocks down away from my house. You know, with all the issues that we have going on in the Erie community, it's sad that somebody have to bring their drama here, because we got enough of our own here. But I'm also proud of the Erie community for sticking together, not panicking. And if anybody goes on Facebook, everybody was saying, please be careful. You know, I mean, this is a sad and tragic thing. But we really have to really take a deep look into mental health. At the end of the day, it's all about the mental health issues. So my condolences to the family. I'd like to thank the Erie community, the police department, Erie Police Department, Wesleyville's, State Police, and especially the employees of McDonald's who really paid attention and helped this come to an end. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mursky.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd just like to echo Mrs. Arrington's comments and thank our police for their work and cooperation with the state police in the apprehension of Stephen Stevens, and also to that diligent alert worker at McDonald's. I hope she gets or he gets the reward. I know that's the big thing right now, but in times like this, you worry, especially now that I have children, you worry about your kids, and so fine work by our police officers, and in cooperation. That was the other thing that was really, people were complaining, well, they didn't tell us. Well, sometimes you can't broadcast everything you're going to do before you do it, and this was one of the things where somebody saw something and they said something, and that's good. Also, we kind of went through it first reading, but I wanted to thank the Sisters of Mercy for their $15,000 for fire equipment and police equipment. The sisters don't have to, as a tax-exempt organization, contribute, and they do. So, again, thank you to the Sisters of Mercy for their contribution. And also wanted to thank TESTA for their cooperation with us on making sure that property stays on the tax rolls. We have such limited bayfront property that it's important, and this body felt it was important that we preserve that property for taxable purposes, and we thank them for their cooperation on that. And finally, I just wanted to tell everyone that I saw Mr. Winarski and Ms. Stankiewicz at Dingus Day. So Monday was Dingus Day. In the Polish tradition, it's the day after Easter, and a good time was had by all. So thank you for that, and with that, I conclude my report.
Unfortunately, I was out of town that Monday, so I know you guys filled in for me. I got good reports on Jimmy, finally. I, too, wanted to thank the Sisters of Mercy. In the 16 years that I've been at City Hall, they've always come through for us year after year with contributions, and I think it's great that they do that, and they don't have to do it. But they've been doing it for, like I say, 16 years I've been here. I also wanted to thank the Erie Police Department. Having a different viewpoint of the situation when I was out east, the city of Erie really came out well on the news out there. That was the first time I heard about it, and they did talk well of the city of Erie and our local police and state police, and I'm pleased with how everything turned out. I agree with Sonia, we got some problems to solve. I want to thank Tessa also, and I want to thank the hard work of Jimmy, Curtis, and my vice president over here, Mel.
He didn't give his report
Yeah.
yet.
And I want to thank the hard work they did with Testa and getting back to us. This meeting's getting out of hand quick, I can see that. And finally, about BIU, I agree with Curtis in his comments. I think anytime council cannot answer questions to the public or cannot get the right answers, there's a problem. Transparency is the latest thing that's coming down to the city through Gadsby and other programs through the federal and state government. Transparency, transparency, transparency to the public. When we can't get the answers, there's a problem. And I think now that we got this hopefully solved with the hard work of our controller and the committee that I will appoint, I think we can put this to rest. So with that, I'm going to end my report and turn it over to the controller for her comments.
I have no report, but I'm going to give my 5 minutes to Mr. Witherspoon, who didn't give his 5 minutes.
You've forgotten that. Mel didn't get a report, but he didn't have it.
I gave him one. He called. He didn't listen.
He didn't listen. This is
You got
You weren't listening before.
I don't know what I wasn't listening. I was sitting right
Like
here.
Mr. Barnes out there, too, you guys.
Did anyone
I heard
Here.
him calling you 3 times.
Oh, shut up. You did not. Thank you, Mr. President, very much.
We'll give you 10 minutes.
Oh, I don't need that much. No report.
Administration?
Administration.
Did Mr. Jones have an opportunity? Just making sure that all of our councilmen are represented up there with their...
He's not anti-bow tie.
Thank you, Mr. President. Want to confirm that spring cleanup does go through next week. There hasn't been an announcement that it will be extended, and should that come down from Public Works, you'll hear that through the regular media channels. Mr. Witherspoon, thank you again on behalf of the administration for the lovely award, and we couldn't do this without your help and your contributions. So, again, thank you very much.
I would be remiss if I didn't ask for our chief counsel or our conciliary there.
I'm going to give Mr. Witherspoon's report. He didn't give... And I've got 5 minutes of my own plus his 10 minutes, right?
You just used 4.5 of it.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, City Council adjourns at 9:05 p.m. Mr. Kwiatkowski, Mrs. Arrington, Mr. Brennan, Mr. Jones, Mr. Murski, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon.